Hi everyone, my name's Holly and I've been a member of Flow Church since it began. You might have seen me on the worship team at some point, but if we haven't met, then hello. Can't wait to see all of you guys in person when the world goes back to normal, so yeah. Right, my devotional today is Peter disowning Jesus. So it's from Matthew 26, verse 69 to 75. So the passage reads, "Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. 'You also were with Jesus of Galilee,' she said. But he denied it before them all. 'I don't know what you're talking about.' Then he went out to the gateway, where another servant girl saw him and said to the people there, 'This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth.' He denied it again with an oath, 'I don't know the man.' After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, 'Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away.' Then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, 'I don't know the man.' Immediately, a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the words that Jesus had spoken, 'Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times.' And he went outside and wept bitterly." So in this passage, we see Peter, one of Jesus' 12 disciples, one of his closest friends, deny Jesus. Not just deny Jesus, but protest. Even more than protest, he swears an oath that he does not know him. When just hours before, he had proclaimed that Jesus was the Messiah and had promised to lay down his life for him, following him even to his death. So why, when this young girl asks Peter if he knew Jesus, does he deny him? Why does he repeatedly deny him and go as far as swearing not to know him? I think it all comes down to one very simple thing: fear. In my experience, when you're fearful of something, you often don't really think about the past or the future. All you can focus on is the terrifying present. If we hear a crack in our home, we fear that the whole house will come down. Or if we hear an unknown noise in the night, we assume that it's something hostile and dangerous. Fear can colour our vision. It can corrode our life and dramatically restrict our ability to live faithful and abundant, joyful lives. So Peter's fearful of being arrested and treated in the same way that Jesus was. So when Peter hears the rooster, he's reminded of the prophecy that Jesus had made and the words he says earlier in the book of Matthew. "Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will also disown before my Father in heaven." And it's at that moment that Peter learns something about himself and the whole human race. That though the spirit may be willing, the flesh is weak. Suddenly, Peter's fears will have shifted from an earthly perspective to a heavenly one. That perhaps by denying Jesus, he may now be denied entry into heaven and to live in eternity with Jesus there. Peter's name is then not mentioned throughout the entire of the rest of the book of Matthew. Maybe this is a choice by the author to show the severity of his betrayal. It does show, however, that he repented by the fact that it says in verse 75, he went outside and wept bitterly. Believe it or not, this repentance was the making of Peter. Previously, though he didn't know it yet, Peter wasn't actually ready to follow Jesus. He had not come to an end of himself or put his own self out of the way to serve Jesus. And we see this when Jesus tells Peter in John 13:36. Simon Peter asks him, "Lord, where are you going?" Jesus replies, "Where I am going, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow me later." Peter asked, "Lord, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." And I think that Peter truly believed this. Peter's grief was the turning point for him. And godly grief can produce a repentance that brings with it absolutely no regret. Matthew is thought by some scholars to be a book written aimed at new believers, a book that's almost a manual for discipleship. We may start our Christian lives with a decision, but it can take years to make a disciple. Even if we'd been one of the 12, like Peter, we're still capable of sinning and letting our flesh rule our decisions, and maybe even just acting out of fear. But the good news is that we don't have to live our lives this way. Jesus says, "Do not be afraid of those who can kill your body, but not kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both body and soul in hell." So, don't be fearful of the everyday things that can be thrown at you in life. If you're going to live in fear, let it be a fear of your own salvation, and let that change you to live a life that's focused on Jesus.